Hello friends and fellow Malaysians. I'm standing at Masjid Jami LRT station. Public transportation is very important for any country. If public transportation is no good, obviously it's going to be difficult for the citizens to travel. They would have to buy private vehicles. And what happens when everybody owns a private vehicle? You get traffic jams. Imagine if you're in Langkawi and you want to travel to Belaga in Sarawak. How would one do that? By just using public transportation. I'm sure that it's not going to be easy. Obviously, you need to take an aeroplane from Langkawi in Kedah to Belaga in Sarawak. But the last mile connectivity, how would you achieve that? Maybe you would use Grab, but I'm not very sure it would be easily available for you to travel to in Belaga, because Belaga is not a prominent town in Sarawak. It would be easy to travel to Kuching or Sibu or Sarike and many of the other bigger towns and cities in Sarawak. But how about the smaller places? This is the reason why I picked Belaga as an example. So the last mile connectivity, whether by bus or by train, is not there. To travel from Langkawi in Kedah to Belaga in Sarawak, obviously you need to take an aircraft. That's the easy part. But what about the last mile connectivity? How would you achieve that? So that is my question. We need to make it very easy, not just for tourists, but also for Malaysians to travel to any point in Malaysia, any town, any village, any city, by just using public transportation. Just think about the Iskandar Development Region, IDR. The idea was to turn it into something like what Shenzhen is to Hong Kong, and obviously much better than that. The IDR is 3 times the size of Singapore. So what does the federal government expect the people who live in this region to do? Travel by car, by motorbike? Isn't that just ridiculous? Just think about it. Across the causeway, you have MRTs, LRTs, and all kinds of public transportation, including the final last mile, which is the bus. Very efficiently run. We all know that. Shouldn't we take a step further in Iskandar region? When are you going to build the MRT networks? See, this idea that you need to have density of population before building anything, I'm so sorry to say this to you, is utterly stupid. Because if you're only going to build when it's dense, where is going to be the space for you to build it? What is going to be the cost? So we have visions, great visions. For example, the IDR. So what do? We look at the key locations, the education hub, the entertainment, the amusement parks, the industry, the manufacturing, the offices, the residences. So all these places need to have connectivity. So we should start building the stations today. I've met town planners from Japan before, and this seems to be exactly what they do. They build the stations first before building the townships. Nothing is walkable or cyclable if everything is far. And come on, we live in Malaysia. It's a hot and humid country. Nobody wants to walk out in the sun for long distances. Short distances, fine. But long distances, nobody's going to do that. We all are going to be totally sweaty with our clothes wet with perspiration. Is that how we're going to be moving around? This is the very reason why malls in Malaysia are so popular, because that's a cool place for us to go in. This is the reason why people prefer shopping in malls. And even if you go to shops, like shopping districts, Jalan Tuanku Abdul Rahman, the shops are all air conditioned. Nobody is going to go to a place that does not have it, because we are just living in a hot and humid country. So I want you to think about it. Somebody walking out of their house to a bus stop, waiting for an hour and a half to get a bus, to whichever destination they want to go to, or a connecting point. That's just not practical. So people are going to start using cars. People are going to start using motorbikes. And then you're going to have congestion. All these contribute to a higher cost of doing things. The government has been talking about cutting down subsidies. Fair enough. We don't want to burn our money through fuel. But what about the citizens who need to travel? There is no productivity if you are stuck where you are. The days where our citizens in more remote areas, in Peninsula as well as in Borneo states, having to take a boat half a day. They walk half a day, they take a boat half a day to reach a town, just to go to a clinic, to a bank, for any amenities. That's just utterly ridiculous. This is where you have to spend your money, not by increasing the number of ministers or deputy ministers in the government. All of that is a cost. Not by increasing the seats of parliament or state assemblies. That is a cost. Not by increasing the number of clerical employees in GLCs and the government. You don't create jobs that way. What you do is create great mobility in the country with this doctrine that I just mentioned. It is quite shameful, the idea to build the LRT in Penang, which was mooted 15 years ago, is still being talked about today. Just crazy. Come on, we can do better. We should have already built it by now, and it's operational. For the major towns and cities in Malaysia, we have to build these kind of train networks. There's always this argument that buses are better, and now we have a thing called ART, but these vehicles, they compete for space on already congested roads. With well-planned rail networks and TOD, transport-oriented development, I'm sure we can do a lot of things. This is where I believe the MRT 1 and 2, approved by our convicted Prime Minister Najib, has done his job. It's not that I'm supportive of him, but the fact is, he made the right decision at the right time. So these are the kind of things that we need to do. The total connectivity doctrine, if 20 years ago or 30 years ago, would have been difficult. But the basics of the infrastructures are already there. They just need to be improved. As you can look and hear behind me, public buses. And these buses are not efficient. Why? Because you got to wait a long time. Nobody wants to wait. See, how public transportation works is very simple. It needs to be available on time all the time, irrespective of whether or not anyone is taking the bus. For public transportation to work efficiently, you need to test the routes for 10 years. Not 6 months, not 12 months, not 24 months. 120 months, you need to test them. It will go into a loss. I don't mind paying more taxes for that. But I do mind paying more taxes to pay higher salaries. And I believe all the citizens here would think the same. All of that is going to increase inflation. But not spending money on public needs. At the end of the day, when we know that it's reliable, it's there, it's always available, that would encourage people to drive less and take public transportation more. No one is going to spend 3 hours to travel from home to office. That's not feasible. That's not realistic. That's just rubbish. We want to be going to places efficiently, easily, and with convenience. And it is the right of our citizens to demand it. This is where you spend Petronas' money on, not paying interest on debts. I am not blaming the current government or even the previous ones. All of this takes time, I understand. So it's time for all of us to wake up, especially those in authority and power, to build up this country so that no location in this country is inaccessible. Whether we have to travel by boat, by plane, by buses, by trains, we will reach them easily, efficiently, cheaply, and most importantly, on time. Thank you.